Hello, my name is Javier Gutierrez Gomez. I am a student from the Computer Vision online course imparted by the Professor Jesus Ubaldo Quevedo Torrero. So this is my research presentation. I'm going to be presenting uh, the paper I read that is titled RGBW When Vision Meets Wireless. This is a paper presented by the Stanford University from the Computer Science Department, published in 2015. So this paper focused on the problem of human localization and tracking. So they describe that this problem has been improved in the later years with the use of RGBD cameras, but these setups are rare and costly to deploy. This means that there are not available setups with these cameras that can detect also the depth of the object filmed. And also they talk that the use of only RGB cameras or cameras with only RGB data for localization and tracking, it's a better approach because there are millions of spaces monitored by a single RGB camera, as can be security cameras or in public spaces or universities. But the disadvantages of using RGB only data is the challenge to estimate the depth because with only RGB data we cannot see the depth of the objects in the scene. And also self-occlusion problems. This is when two people collide in the same scene, so it is difficult to recognize which is which people. So the proposition relies on the adding or augmenting that RGB data with the signal of wireless data. So this means that as well as the RGB data is obtained from a public space, also that can be obtained the RGB, the wireless signals from the cell phones or from the Bluetooth signal of the devices. So this relies on the proposition that over 15% of visitors in public spaces enable the Wi-Fi data or signals by using public services in the airport or in a museum or a university. They are connected to the Wi-Fi, so they can easily access to this signal or this data. Also, another advantages is that the large scale Wi-Fi implementations are more commonly, so they are implemented again in airports, in universities, or in government dependencies. So this is more easily to find setups with large Wi-Fi implementations. Also, this approach is not limited to Wi-Fi. Also, it can be extended to Bluetooth Low Energy or beacons. And the both modalities complements. This means that the disadvantages of RGB can be achieved with the advantages of using the wireless signal. So the objective of this investigation or this paper is to improve the localization and tracking of individuals with RGBW data. This can be, as I said, Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, or beacons. This is not limited to Wi-Fi. But the challenges to this approach is that we have noisy signals as this is oriented to crowded spaces. So many signals can be broadcasting. So this is a noisy environment. Also, not all the signals are broadcasting, so many people don't broadcast these Wi-Fi or W signals. And also, there are the incomplete RGB data. So we have only the RGB data, and this not provides the depth information accurately. So the related work that they are citing in this paper are related to different methods of localization using only RGB based data, only W data, and also RGBW data. So for the RGB only, uh, they are citing a work related with the image classification, recursive neural networks. There are also many works, interesting works with using multiple cameras, also sparsity-driven algorithms that is kind of related with the work that they are proposing here. and also solution for the tracking problem. In the W-based localization studies, uh, they cite fingerprint databases. There have been work um, using these databases or fingerprint. This is in a brief description, like a point that is measured before uh, with the strength of the signal received in a specific point, and if this combination of signal strengths are replicated in the future, so there can be detected at a specific point. Another method is the signal triangulation and ring overlapping. There are also work related with RGBW data, combining these two signals, and one of them is the particle filter approach. This approach is used by mounting a mobile camera in the individual, but this approach is not using a fixed camera. So with this mobile camera, they can detect specific fingerprints or SIF features. These SIF features are specific points that can be like a wall or a furniture um, in a in an environment. So the propositions and contributions of this paper are jointly process RGBW data in an unified framework. Also, propose an image-driven representation of W data to enable joint reasoning with RGB images, a sparsity-driven framework with a cascade of L1 solvers, and demonstrating the impact of RGBW on tracking framework by solving MAC assignment tasks given noisy observation of the data. So I'm going to talk about each of these propositions detailed here to know how they achieved to resolve this problem or how they resolve it to resolve the localization using this bot data. So the first challenge was to represent the W data into images. So this is a clever approach that using rings instead of circles or closed circles. So these rings basically represent the boundaries of the error that can be expected in the representation or in the distance estimation. So they part from this formula to calculate the received signal strength, and with this approach, they calculate the distance from the localized point and from each of the antennas. But this simple calculation is not enough because it represents errors, or in the reality, there are a lot of noise in the error in the readings. So to achieve this error, as we can see in this table, the red line is the average error, and the blue boxes are the center of the 50% of the data, the center 50% of the data, and this is the other data that are not with much frequency. So to resolve the error, they use a correction based on a power regression. So this we have that the almost all the data are more centered in the boxes, but still there are a lot of outliers, as we can see here. So another step they do is a classification of those readings. So these red crosses represent those outliers, and as we can see here, the noisy antennas so are ignored. So it's better to have less information but more accurately than more information but not so confident that is a good reading or a precise information. So the problem formulation is achieved, or the main proposition here is this dictionary of data. So in this dictionary, they put in each column uh, any individual or an ideal observation. They represent here an ideal observation. It's like a training set, but not exactly a training set, but it's a dictionary that it will be used for the algorithm. So this dictionary is compounded by the RGB view, binarized as a rectangle. So this rectangle is a binary image that represents the silhouette of the person after uh, removing the background, and also the rings view that we see in the previous step. So this represents each possibility. Here is the possibility when the user or when the individual is not broadcasting data. So as we can see, the obtained images are really noisy. So this is a problem of to reduce this noisy or to detect the points. As you can see, when these rings overlaps, the points that are more white represents a point where an individual is intersecting, and also is complemented with this binary image that represent the silhouettes of the individuals. So here we have the ground plane. This is the true position of the individual in the plane. So this is the kind of dictionary that is built. So this reduces to a basis pursuit the noise problem. And so this problem is achieved with a cascade of convex solvers. So in other works, they use only one solver, but the innovation of this, or also one of the contributions or propositions, is to use two solvers. So the first one is here, lasso formulation, and the second one is here, BPDN, that is a basis pursuit the noise problem. And the final result is all the add of this is the vector of the points represented by x. So the sum of those results are the final result. Finally, to detect the human tracking uh, or the path of the humans detected, they use a path called a tracklet that is a short trajectory with high confidence, because in these points we don't have the confidence that is the signal of an individual because they collide. So they use these paths with high confidence point, and to associate it with an ID or an individual to know how or what path corresponds to each individual, they use the MAC ID information, and to match it in each frame to the trajectory. This is a bipartite graph. So some vertices represent the MAC ID and other vertices represent the trajectory points in each frame. So to match each one is taken the center of mass of the measurement and the coordinates of the tracking point or the tracking trajectory. So that they can relate the MAC ID with the trajectory. The results for this method or for this application can be seen here. As we can see, they outperform the other methods described in the related work. As we can see, here is the precision for the model represented. And here they analyze the precision even when the number of people in the scene goes bigger. So as we can see, this is the blue line representing the model in the paper. So this is done decreased even when the number of people gets bigger. And this is the impact of turning on the W modality. So this column represents the number of devices that are broadcasting wireless signals. Even as we can see, even when the 20% of the individuals are broadcasting, the precision doesn't get more affected. So this is a good signal because even when there is sparse W signals, uh, the performance of the method is even good. So as conclusion, I can say that this is a good approach to resolve that problem of localization. And this can be also used in many applications as security or data tracking or data analytics. So that's all for my side, and thank you for listening.